Welcome to the episode of the Valero Verdict. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, I'm going to break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of the latest Netflix docu-series, WWE Unreal. WWE Unreal showcased for the first time ever. We stepped into the WWE writers' room and outside the ring with your favorite WWE superstars, where the drama is just as intense offstage as it is under the spotlight. This really peeled back the layers in a way that we had never ever seen before. And it was interesting perspective watching some of the way that they built the road to WrestleMania, right? There was a lot of question marks behind the road of WrestleMania, like why Jey Uso? What really went down with the whole John Cena turning heel situation? How did that play out? What about Cody Rhodes? What about Chelsea Grin? What about this figurehead that is Triple H? What does that look like? And there's been a lot of questions on and off the on podcasts, on the internet, on social media, where it's like, hey, is this reality? What did we see? Was it reality? And for me, I had spent, I don't know, about 7, 8 years in the world of professional wrestling myself. I wrestled for 7, 8 years, and no, I wasn't a big superstar or anything like that. I kind of rode the fence of the independent scene, and seeing this brought out, you know what I mean? Because the world of kayfabe, of the world of understanding the element of wrestling, and is it real? Is it fake? Is it predetermined? All of these things really come to light on the show. You know what I mean? And it's all the things that audiences know, but what we do see is the raw look at positioning, right? There is a position, there's jockeying for position. Just because your name could potentially have it circled that you're going to win the match, the understanding of the importance of your name being circled, you know what I mean? Like, that is an important element of this. Like, you have to do the right things. You have to be the right person. You have to do it at the right time. So, because of that, I wanted to take a look at this show, kind of unpack some of the things that we saw, and give the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a little bit of that in this first thing we're going to talk about, right? There is a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly to talk about with Rhea Ripley, right? You know what I mean? Ripley is a star. We know that. WWE knows that. But the magnitude of the faith that the company has on her is like larger than life. And you could see the weight of being this star is heavy on her. And I thought that was such an interesting element because she felt the need. She wants to be perfect. She wants it to be boom, 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 boom. And it's not always going to be that way, especially in this world. You know what I mean? Like, to me, we saw reality in that. The level of stardom she carries is one of the biggest the WWE has seen in a long time. The thing about it is, though, what I also realized watching this, the good is seeing Ripley in this element, seeing that they believe in her, that the way that I believe in her, or fans believe in her. But the bad and even the ugly is I don't think they know how to navigate this stardom. You know what I mean? It's been a long time, I think, since we've seen a woman over as much as her, right? They can't always keep the belt on her, but they can't keep her away from being in the title picture. It's something they're struggling to navigate. And that was one thing, that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from this entire show, was they're navigating Ripley. How do we push her to the moon? How do we keep her in the forefront of this without losing sight of the other women around her, because she's consistently thrust in the spotlight, right? Another thing we find out, okay, there was a lot of questions on why Jey Uso. And Jey Uso is over like Rover. I've been at Raw. I've seen the chants. The yeetin is a yeetin when you're in that arena, and it's electric. But you can see in the conversations early on, Triple H didn't really buy into the idea of Jey Uso being the top dog. There were subtle jabs about him kind of being blown up during his entrance, which, I mean, like, who wouldn't be? But I felt like he didn't buy into the idea of him carrying the mantle. And to me, you consistently hear, and again, a version of the ugly, you consistently hear, if you win the Royal Rumble, you go on to main event WrestleMania. And that didn't happen. If CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble. Like initially they thought or conversated about him or Cena. They're main eventing WrestleMania. Actually, at the end of the day, they both ended up main eventing WrestleMania. Period. You know what I mean? Like they did. You know what I mean? And the whole show built around the idea of CM Punk and main eventing and stuff like that. But it was interesting to see they wasted him winning the Royal Rumble. They wasted him winning the title at WrestleMania. But at the end of the day, could it have been Jay that wasted his opportunity of carrying the title on his back? It felt like there was an element of both. It felt like they have this thing that they could push to the moon, but maybe Jay isn't that guy. Maybe Jay isn't that heavyweight champion. And I think they have that same problem with LA Knight, which is I think Uso's way better in the ring than Knight is, but they never can pull the trigger on him being champion. I don't think they're that good enough to carry the company on their back, right? You can get a Gunther to carry the company on their back a little bit better because he's a heel. So as a heel, he's good on the mic, he can wrestle, and he can back up what he's saying. So because of those things, you can have the baby faces chasing him all day. You know what I mean? And you saw how quick they made the decision to put the title back on Gunther, which then, of course, led to the Goldberg situation, and of course, led to SummerSlam, where we saw the whole situation play out. But I don't believe the viability in Jey Uso. That to me was, evident watching this show. And I love that Triple H loves to love on the squad. You know what I mean? He gets up close and personal in these things. I do have a few questions, right? I've seen the dirt sheets kind of talking about Triple H making light of the hugs and kind of the words he whispers into the ears, which is kind of crazy to me because like they're whispering into he's like whispering in their ears, but he's like mic'd up at the same time. Like I hope they're insincere, you know what I mean? But like the reality of it is like it's kind of weird, you know what I mean? Like again, it's one of those things that I hope that his level of sincerity is real and not just a play for the camera because it does come off inauthentic when you're watching it. All right. I we've seen a lot of the conversation directed towards Triple H. This to me is a level of the good, the bad, and the ugly all wrapped up in one because there's that level of you want to believe in Triple H. And then there's a level of his inability to really book things correctly. And I think that's because of the people that he has the trust in. You have the Michael Hayes, you have the Bruce Pritchard. They've been around a while, but I think they've been around far too long. And because of that, you see stale product turned out. So it's like a level of viability when it comes into, all right, I believe in what Triple H is selling, but the problem is at the same time, you can't always buy into it because I don't feel like they always know what they're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. And because of that, we've seen them consistently struggle with pushing the right people to elevating the right people, to putting the belt in the right people's hands. And to me, that's where they're struggling. So the good of Triple H is you want to believe in the good of what he's trying to sell. The bad is he doesn't put himself around the right people that are trying to sell the product to the next level for the next generation. The failure to create new superstars that can carry the mantle beyond your CM Punks, beyond your John Cena's. You know what I mean? These guys, Cena's gone at the end of the year. CM Punk is not getting any younger. You know what I mean? Like the viability in these guys is a failure of development, and we're not seeing the development of the next phase, right? You know what I mean? You have Gunther, who I think is one of the best wrestlers in the company, and he's only improved at every level. But then for every that, and you have a Ripley, but you have a struggle of those next batch of main eventers. You have a bunch of mid-carders. You have a bunch of guys that are willing to step up and make it to the next level, but they're not good enough to carry the mantle. They're not good enough to be like a Roman Reigns, you know what I mean? Be it as it may, to carry the company on their back. And I do think that's the ugly side of what Triple H is trying to bring to the table. I don't believe he gives the keys to the right people whenever it comes down to things. And that whole John Cena thing and the whole heel turn thing was interesting to watch. You know what I mean? And how it all came together, how the conversations came together. I wish we got a little bit more of a conversation with The Rock, but I knew that we wouldn't see probably a whole lot of him. But yeah, I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more of how that played out outside of just the words of Triple H. It's really what we got from there. The Charlotte Flair situation. This was the ugly, right? Tiffany Stratton 100% went off script on Charlotte Flair, and it pissed her off big time. That's where things kind of got ugly. Obviously, we see um, Triple H found out about this and said Stratton had to apologize. Cheap heat is never good heat, especially against your own opponent and especially against a respected veteran. You know, Charlotte still did business and she, still put Stratton over and catapulted her to the next level of trying to be the star. But it was cool in a way to see that heat was real and authentic, and that's the level of professional wrestling that, yeah, it's scripted, yeah, it's this and that, but at the end of the day, like, it can get ugly around here. You know what I mean? Like it can really get ugly. So, and then of course Chelsea Gren. Um, Probably one of the biggest highlights of the entire series. One minute you felt empathy as she brought her family, bought her, 14, 15 seats for her family to see her wrestle in her hometown, only to not be on the card. Um, the level of like pizzazz and the level of just energy and care. And it's like, that type of people are hard to find in this business. Like finding someone that genuinely loves wrestling and wants to be the best. And again, you guys understand the element of what she's doing, right? You know what I mean? But you can see the authenticity of like, if you're not on, if you're not on the card, you know what I mean? Like you're losing a spot almost. You need to be on that card. You need to be in that spot. That needs to be you. But if you're not doing the right things, or if you're not checking the boxes, it doesn't matter. Or even if you are, you could still be left off the card. And how she pushed, because one minute again you're feeling the empathy, the next you're watching her become the first women's U.S. champion, and her pure joy and happiness winning this was beautiful. We understand that wrestling is quote unquote predetermined, but winning those matches and titles are pivotal in catapulting your career. You can see yourself take it to the next level. You can see yourself getting more merchandise. You can see yourself getting more money because you're champion. You're on TV. You're on TV consistently. You're doing promotional. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of heaviness that become from becoming champion, but at the end of the day, being champion is pivotal in making sure that you're staying on the card. And that to me was such an incredible moment to watch. I loved it. I loved that element of it. I loved her. I think that she is an absolute positive star. You know what I mean? Just a positive star. And I love her. And I hope like this was kind of like an introduction level almost for me to her. And she just blew it out of the ballpark. And then one last, comment about the blowing it out of the ballpark. Because oh my God, Bianca Belair is just first off, the fact that she makes her own gear was really, really cool. I loved that, just in general. And then on top of that, just the level of again, a level of care and level of want and need and to be better and consistently put on a big show. Bianca is another one that is a star, another one that I don't think they know how to really drive that vehicle. I feel like they try to push the Jade Cargill vehicle down our throats, and I don't believe that she's that good. There was one clip in there, if you watch a Cargill, where Triple H is still like trying to go over things for her to understand what to do at the Elimination Chamber and telling her to slow down, slow the process down. So I love that as well. But Bianca's a star. Another one, again, I don't believe they know what they're doing with, but I hope they figure it out because she is good business. Obviously CM Punk, the whole main event thing. I have my feelings for CM Punk. There's levels of this that I feel like there's some inauthenticity within this. The whole having to, the want to main event WrestleMania thing. I feel like for years you preach one thing but you do the other, and that's what kind of and it's only showcased that for me even more when it came to CM Punk. This didn't make me more of a fan of CM Punk. I think it actually made me less of a fan of CM Punk. And I know people love the guy, and he, back in the day, you know what I mean? No, there was very few bigger CM Punk fans than myself, but I just feel like he's become an unauthentic version of himself. And I'll finish it up on Cody Rhodes. The whole finisher story, how that all played out, and then the aftermath of all of that, of I wish we would have got a little bit more of them asking the idea of Cody being the bad guy and whether or not he really turned that down, because that's obviously the long running rumor that, he said, hey, I turned it down because of X, Y, and Z. But that to me was interesting. And I would have loved to see more of that. I think I would have loved to see more of those conversations with Cody Rhodes being involved in creative, but I think that we realized that maybe he's just along for the ride, which understandable, right? You know what I mean? He's just another guy on the pecking order, you know what I mean? But to me, it kind of felt like he was not, he's not in the know. He's just kind of there doing his own thing. And maybe his, the only thing that he did do was make sure that he was never going to be that quote unquote bad guy, if you know what I mean. But yeah, outside of that, I enjoyed this because of what it is. We've already got an announcement for season 2 of WWE Unreal, which will be interesting. I think that maybe they're still filming, and I think that maybe the build to SummerSlam, and then the build throughout to John Cena's career coming to an end. I think that's what's going to be maybe the vocal point and maybe tying that story all together. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the WWE Unreal that was on Netflix, the 5-episode series. What did you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be back to talk more in the near future.